Nincsen a játékban olyan beállítást, nem is láttam.
My teenage years were full of sketching, angst, and trouble. I wasn't popular or unpopular. Maybe just forgettable. I guess that gave me a sense of freedom. So I hung out with crazy kids, doing crazy things, even though I mostly just watched the chaos ensue. We did it all. Put fireworks in mailboxes, hide roadkill in people's garages, break windows of the barber shop in Anchorage. My dad was furious, but he was so busy working he couldn't do much to stop me from going out.
I think being an adult means there's no one to stop you making hard decisions. He had to make a living, and he couldn't be in two places at once.
Yeah, I realize that now. But at the time, I was sure he was more interested in growing his business than what was going on with me. He was working another late night, and my friends were over, saying how bored they were and how they had come all the way out to my house for nothing. One of them mentioned how that old, ugly beyond belief truck was still in the garage, and how we should take it for a spin. I was only 15, so I kind of fought it for a while. The next thing I knew, we were careening around the mountain path, rocks spitting onto the sides of the cliff, while my dad's cringeworthy bluegrass blared out the speakers. I drove while my friends were in the back of that yellow and purple truck, throwing beer bottles and trash at anything remotely interesting. Felt like I was soaring in the air with borrowed wings. But all good things have endings. A cop outside of Eagle River pulled us over after he saw us in a bottle rocket into someone's yard. What followed was a long night of talking to disappointed adults and feeling smaller than ever. After he drove me home from the police station, I blew up at him, saying how I never wanted to be like him, how I was going to be someone and leave that hick icebox for good. He just looked forward at the road with tired eyes. I took out that bluegrass tape from the cassette deck and chucked it out the window. In my sage teenage wisdom, I thought I had proved the ultimate point. But my dad had a different idea. He slammed the brakes, slowly bowed his head while gripping the steering wheel, and finally looked at me. All he said, like it was a polite request, was, make this right. I sat there in silence, fuming, but I eventually got out and combed every square inch of the woods, muttering profanity after profanity. I found it 30 minutes later, near a small waterfall off the road. I went back to the truck, put the wet tape back in, and sure enough, it worked. We didn't speak another word to each other the rest of the night.
Wow, I knew you were a crazy teenager, but
It's hard to believe, isn't it? It surprises me too. It's like I didn't really know who that kid was back then. I bet my dad thought the same thing over and over. It's almost like he was saying, make this right to himself, more than to me. My friends would laugh about that night and talk about how crazy it was, and I laughed along, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did. I imagined my friends growing old in the bush, unable to find that thrill in those godforsaken ice fields. It's like those mountains were a literal wall, keeping me from leaving, where all I would have to look forward to are lumber yards and evening beers. I had to climb over. That was my only goal for a long time. If there was some way I could take my love of drawing and turn it into a way of escape, nothing would make me happier. I wanted to create instead of tearing trees down. I wanted to move to the lower 48, not because I hated it there in Alaska, but I hated the idea of it. It's like all of that spite inside me had created this monster which followed me around my whole teenage years. I put so much energy into doing what others didn't expect of me. Why did I do that?
there's one fact you're forgetting, though. If you didn't have that fire in you, we probably would have never met.
You're absolutely right. Maybe the destination is all that matters in the end. But then why am I awake? Why am I seeing this fox go on her journey? And why can't I stop thinking about my dad?
Milyen érdekes, hogy milyen gondolatok is vannak egy játékban. Ha belegondoltok, hogyha így követitek ennek a történetét. Most érdekes. Mind amint az előző videóban is mondtam, hogy valaminek nagyon kell már történnie így a gaming piacon. Mert ezek az AAA kategóriák, most gondoljatok vele, hogy mekkora fejlesztési időbe kerülnek, mennyi emberbe. Csak még ugye mennyi hír volt arról, hogy dolgoztatják őket. És ugye volt ilyen hír a Naughty Dogról, volt ilyen hír a Warner Bros. A NetherRealm-ről, bocsánat, ugye a Mortal Kombat-et fejlesztik. Ez meg egy programozónak az ötlete volt, az ő kis víziója. És hogy tök sikeres lett a csávó. És ha belegondoltok abba, hogy mondjuk a 2000-es években milyen színes és frankul felhozatalok voltak. Kicsit hasonló szerintem a helyzet amúgy, mint a zeneiparban. Hogy minden egy kapta lett. Ugye 2000-es években baromira mentek még az RTS-ek, a real-time stratégia játékok. Hát ugye az igazi RPG játékok, tehát ezek a hardcore RPG játékok.
On our property, there were old abandoned pieces of a shed and car long left unused. I used to ask him all the time who those people were that left all this junk. And I'm sure he got so tired of hearing it that he made up some elaborate stories how a brown bear ate them and haunted the woods afterwards. What's funny is I think it made those people seem more real. Growing up thinking they were still hanging out like they couldn't say goodbye. I used to tell my friends how I could swear I saw spirits move near the water, and that always freaked them out. I guess it didn't bother me, because the way I saw it, they were normal people with old cars and sheds, just trying to figure out how to survive and be happy in the middle of nowhere. It was a cool thought that they didn't want to leave, but you know, I was a weird kid.
Well, you had good company since those ghosts like living in a place where they were brutally devoured.
És visszatérve a saját gondolatomra, hogy egyszerűen ezekkel jó játszani. Most nem minden jó, ami indie, nyilvánvaló, hogy nagyon sok melléfogás van, de gondoljatok bele, hogy mennyi kreativitás, mennyi emancipáció szorult egy olyan emberbe, akit ilyet egymaga meg tudott támadni, milyen jó kis lelki világa lehet, hogy mennyire ilyen művészi, hogy ilyeneket le tud tenni az asztalra.
Even at my most distant, at the times when I detested him the most, he kept reaching out. For a year straight, he asked me every week when we were going camping. I thought he was just dense. Eventually, to shut him up, I agreed. We carried out the worn lawn chairs from the garage and set up a cinder block campfire at the site we had always used behind the house. We walked down the mountain path, talking in the warm sunshine we only got a couple months of the year. Those 3 obsidian rocks shimmered alongside the shore, almost like sparklers pressed against a dark window. I'll never forget that wet stone on my feet, or how those massive mountains looked even bigger in the lake's reflection. I felt small, but grateful. As the sun set, my dad found something I hadn't seen for a long time. The tree where I'd made my first carving when I was 6. I hadn't even carved it. My dad had helped me, but I still called it my tree. Something about seeing my name there made me open up, and we talked about everything that night in that old camouflage tent. I told him how much I loved sketching and design, and how it would be a dream to study architecture in Seattle. I told him how I didn't get along with my friends much anymore, but that I didn't mind being alone. He told me he was there for me, and he joked that if all he had to do was write my name on a tree to finally get me to talk, he would have left me carved logs with novels on them in front of my room every morning. I don't know why it took me that long to realize it, but it was then I knew how much he had sacrificed for me.
A legelsőt valahogy nem sikerült aktiválni. Mondom, oda kell visszamennünk. Ez milyen egy szép vízió, hogy a csávó emlékeit egy róka képében, egy tök izgalmas környezetben fedezzük fel, és most a történetét, hanem az álmát, vagy a emlékeit, ugye. Hát valami érdekes a koncepció minden esetben. Meg kéne találni, honnan indultunk. Ilyen nyugis relax játék is, és valamira kellenek ezek a játékok. Valamira szüksége van a gamingnek erre, mert minden.
My dad built a lot of stuff in his free time. If he wasn't watching fly fishing or reading Tom Clancy novels, he was carving something. He made tons of birdhouses. Not that he was into bird watching, but I think he really missed working and adding on to the home. If he couldn't afford the time to build onto our own house, he would have to settle with watching birds move into their little homes. We kept an old mattress in the bed of that ugly yellow truck, so we would drive it deep into the woods and then watch the birds fly into their houses while the sun set. Usually it was accompanied by venison jerky or cold Coke, but not a lot of talking, which is how we both liked it.
Nagyon jó, 2 euró volt, srácok, Steven. Itt volt a második kör. Szóval ott tartottam, hogy nagyon szükség van a gamingben ilyen típusú játékokra, és tudjátok, ez egy szép gondolat, de miért nem az ilyen játékokat kapják meg a nagy híres streamerek? Miért egy olyan játékot kapnak meg, akiket amúgy is mindenki megvesz, tehát hogy mindenki iszonyatosan jó, és mondhatjátok azt, hogy jó, mert senki nem nézni ezt. De így is úgy is megkapjátok az EE játékok tartalmait, és ezeknek nagyobb, az ilyen dolgoknak nagyobb teret kéne adni. Mindenképpen úgy gondolom. No, itt volt a ház. Valahol itt ugráltunk fel szerintem. Nem emlékszem, hogy hol, de valahol itt volt. Keverem. Menjünk vissza, még azt megnézzük. Így jól esik egy ilyen nyugtató zenei környezetbe, egy róka képében futkorászni, elmélyülni a narrációban. És ez a narráció azért mondjuk bennem tök sok emléket felhoz. Értem én, hogy azért izgalmasabb egy Last of Us, egy Witcher 3, egy Red Dead Redemption. De számomra például ez a játék, mert most a magam is kb. Egy óráját voltam. Már több értéket hozott. Csak azért is, hogy figyelem hallgatom a narrációt, és hogy tényleg eszembe én is emlékek, hogy a tínédzser korom, amiket mi marhasságokat csináltunk, és nem volt mind túl szép, és na, és ha minden igaz, akkor most itt vagyok, és akkor gondolom meg. Ha a pályának vége, de a videónak biztosan vége. kis chilles, ilyen majdnem fél órában. Ha tetszik a játék, az It's Almost Midnight oldalon tudtom adni, hogy mindenképpen szeretnétek ebből a játékból még folytatást, nagyon örülnék neki, hogy jeleznétek. Ha viszont tetszik még ráadásul a munkám, amit ide készítek nektek, akkor iratkozzatok fel létszi a csatornámra, nagyon sokat tudtok vele segíteni. Köszönöm szépen, hogy velem voltatok. Sziasztok!